Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars. Today we've got a special episode. We're starting by reviewing 3 users of ServiceM8, followed with an interview with ServiceM8 itself. First off the ranks, we've got Adrian Wheeler, followed by David Mallion, and finally Mark Bennett, before we start the interview with Michael O'Neill from ServiceM8. I will also have a link for you to join ServiceM8 on Aussie Lawn Stars Instagram account and Facebook profile. Most of all, I hope you find this episode informative, and I also hope it helps you to see ways you can improve some areas of your business with more efficient scheduling and tracking of jobs and efficiency on jobs. I've heard a number of people that don't like the idea of tracking employees while on the job. While I understand this can seem like micromanaging employees, it is fairly standard practice for medium-sized service businesses, and we can ensure our businesses operate and scale better with the use of software for customer and job management.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars, the fresh cut lawn care podcast. We've got Aussie legends and cowboys, seasons and grasses, and we're talking about unique equipment. Prepare to hear the real-life tales of local stars. Plus, we have the latest equipment, reviews, and exciting interviews with the best suppliers. We will dig the fertile field of stories from part-time solo operators who are living the life, along with those of growth-focused entrepreneurs, identifying what makes a business successful. We really do cover it all.
Adrian, welcome to the dungeon.
Hey mate, how are ya?
I'm doing well. Hey, we've got a quick 5 minutes to shoot some questions at you, and this is in relation to running ServiceM8. So you've answered my question on LMCA. You've said you run ServiceM8.
Yep.
And I'm going to go and talk to the guys at ServiceM8 very shortly, but what are the things you love about ServiceM8? What does it do really well?
So I've used ServiceM8 for a few years now, and just I've had it operating as a solo or just with one offsider, and I've also had it with 5 employees.
Yeah.
Like obviously the scheduling side of it's a no-brainer. Like most of those programs are pretty good like that. But what I love about it is the communication with the customers.
Yeah.
So if I book a job, it's so easy to just click a button and it sends a email that that I got to create myself. Like they do have generic emails on there, but I got to create this one myself, and also text messages. I have them all saved as templates.
Yeah.
And so when I book a customer, I can send that email to them straight away. When the guys or myself are on the road and I'm on my way to a job, when I check out of the last job and check into the new one, it gives you the option to navigate to the job.
Yep.
And it will actually send a message to that person's mobile, that client's mobile, saying Adrian is 15 minutes or 20 minutes away. It works out where you are off your navigation app on your phone, and tells the customer how far away I am. And then there's plenty of like follow-up emails and text messages and stuff like that for when you complete the job, for when sending invoices and reminders, and yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the communication's probably the biggest thing on that. So
scheduling is a breeze with this, and then communicating with the customers is a breeze?
Yeah, so it's got a really good dashboard in it. So you have a jobs list on the right of jobs that require action.
Yeah.
And the idea is to have that empty. So if there's any jobs in there, you can literally just click on it and drag it, or you can open up the job card and assign the job to a signer, a time, or and a staff member.
Yeah.
But you also have these queues up the top. So if you've got, say, a gardening job where you need to plant some plants or put some irrigation in, and you're waiting on parts, you can put that in the queue. You can create a queue for waiting on materials, or I have it set up so I've got quotes to do, quotes to follow up, and on hold jobs where a client might say, like, look, we're a bit tight on funds, or winter's a bit quiet, like let's put it on hold until spring, and you can actually put that job straight up in there. You don't have to recreate the job later on.
Nice.
So
Did you find when you started using ServiceMate that this was easy to set up yourself, or did you get a ServiceMate partner that helped you set it up to do what you want it to do?
So I set it up myself to start with, and
Yeah.
then 3 months in, I'm like, man, this thing's a mess. It's the same as my Zero and everything like that.
Yep.
And then I actually went to a ServiceMate partner, and she come through and um, did I think it was like hour training thing with me to show me all the good stuff about it, the basic stuff about it, and she helped me set up some emails and stuff like that. I've
Okay.
actually been through two different partners because when um, I didn't really like some of the stuff that she had formatted, so I went with another one, and I've basically taken the best of both of them, and then by now I know how to do it myself as well. So I've gone in and created my own stuff as well.
Awesome.
So
So that makes a massive difference, is having somebody else who can show you how to use it so that you get it set up working well. Once the setup and the behind the scenes stuff is working well, then it's really easy for you to do your day-to-day operations on it.
100%, you can run your business off your phone, literally. So I hardly look at Zero anymore. I leave that for the bookkeepers and the accountants, and I can look at all the reports and stuff in ServiceMate and know exactly what's going on with my business. I can see downtime from the boys, travel time, um, jobs completed on first visit, stuff like that. Yeah, there's so many great options, not just for our industry, but all the trade industries.
Yeah, and I've spoken to half a dozen people over the last 24 hours, and there's people using it as solo guys through to people using it running several teams. And the features are pretty rich, especially once you get into that size where you're running multiple teams. But the interesting thing I've found is even guys who are running solo, just starting out a new business, if they start out with something like ServiceMate, it helps them to be able to know how their business is tracking and know what their jobs are doing in terms of profitability. And yeah, it helps. I guess it makes it a business instead of just flying in the dark.
100%. So I started the day I started my business 5 years ago. I started it with Zero, and that was it. Um, and I was invoicing off that, and I was like, man, there's got to be an easier way. And
Yep.
I've tried a couple of different platforms, and for a few reasons, like not to say the others weren't good, but I just fell in love with ServiceMate, and sorry, my phone just rang. I,
All
I
good.
just fell in love with ServiceMate, and I had a client at that stage that needed. I was subbing into a company out of Brisbane, and they needed a lot of photos for their contract with
Yep.
Invoice, and ServiceMate allowed me to send videos, photos, all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
um,
Okay. So
yeah, and
this
then
is a more challenging question for you to finish this up. What are the things that don't work well, or the things that you find really challenging with ServiceMate?
my organizational skills. So yeah, so ServiceMate saves me. I'm not the most. If I was as organized as I could be, I'd be a millionaire already. But um, yeah, it it's idiot proof, to put it as a simple way. Like
Yeah.
you can either just use it for your scheduling and your invoices, or for those guys that really get into the numbers can look at all the reports. There's so many add-on options with other programs that you can add into ServiceMate and run through your ServiceMate. Like I use ServiceMate phone for my business phone, and it allowed me to have a personal number without having one number that's just calling 24/7. It's the business number shuts off after say 4 o'clock or something like that, and doesn't even ring on weekends.
Nice.
So yeah, it too much to get into in 5 minutes. Put it that way, but
Yeah, so there's a lot of features there, and I think that the more people I talk to, the more we'll go into different features. But it's good to get a little bit from each person.
yeah,
Gives us a bit of an idea of what it's like for somebody running different size businesses and various different things that people find challenging.
yeah,
But
for sure.
what I hear from you is if you were a more organized person, then ServiceMate would help you escalate to the next level even quicker.
For sure. So it's a good program for um, I believe it could even work for the bloke that's just out there getting a bit of beer money for the weekend, keeping
Yeah.
him more organised, right up
Well,
to the
it's helped you be more organised than you would be without it.
100%,
So,
100%.
yeah,
So I don't miss jobs anymore like I used to when I
that's
first
awesome.
started. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the only thing that seems to be a recurring issue for a lot of people is that it's Apple only.
Yeah. So I had that issue. I used to have Apple when I was younger, and I went across to Samsung. And then when I found ServiceMate, I went out and went back to. I was up for an upgrade anyway, and went back and bought an iPhone.
Yeah,
The only time it's ever been an issue is probably 3 times I've had employees that weren't on iPhones,
yeah,
and I went and bought like a $400 iPad Mini that can be sort of a substitute if need be.
yeah,
And then other than that, or once I upgrade my phone, I just give them one of my old ones and
yeah.
go from there. But
Fair.
yeah, it hasn't been an issue. Like when I run my employees, I never have one person out by themselves unless it's one of the main guys.
Yeah,
And, if they don't have iPhone, I just give them one because I know it's going to be beneficial to my business anyway.
for sure.
Yeah,
Well, that's been great talking to you. One day I'll get you in on the podcast for a full episode, but this has
for
been
sure.
a quick call, so I really appreciate it.
For sure. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Gary.
No worries. Thank you.
See you, mate.
Hope you like my colourful dungeon.
How do you like my not colourful dungeon?
That's all right. As long as I can hear you and you can hear me, we can make some lovely recordings.
It's a good start.
Yeah. So how long have you been using ServiceMate? Did you say you've used other software as well?
No, I've been using it since January.
Yeah, okay.
I looked for about 6 months into something that would help me get off using Google Calendar and making my own invoices, right?
Yeah.
And I'd looked at, I wanted preferably Australian product. I actually looked at having someone build my own relational database because I had a bit of insecurity about leaving everything in the cloud, right?
Yeah,
Being
fair
old
enough.
school. But at the end of the day, that wasn't really viable. And the other software I looked at, I just didn't like I didn't really trial it extensively. I have to say that. But there was another Aussie one, I think a Sortscape, and that sort of came with some good reviews. And when I sort of looked at things, I thought, I'm just not phased with the interface or whatever it was. It didn't seem like it was going to do everything I wanted it to do because I wanted to be really good at scheduling and rescheduling and adjusting things easily.
Yeah.
That was one thing. I wanted it to be able to take away the admin for spending a lot of time generating invoices at the end of the month and then keeping track of, when they were paid or not, and things like that. Because I was using Google Calendar, I'd have to make my own filters and write things in a certain way so I could filter to see that had been paid or not been paid because of the job I'd signed up, all that sort of stuff,
So if you've done any sort of accounting before, what you're talking about is essentially the double entry that you use in a software package like Xero or MYOB, where it confirms A, you've sent an invoice, B, you've been paid, and then the double entry goes in to make sure that both sides line up.
Yeah, that's true. But not even before that, I was just myself needing to check out, have I actually finished this job before I even generate an invoice? Right? And because I was doing that at the end of the month and I wasn't fussed about being paid to the end of the next month, it was, if I got busy, which I always did, I'd be a week into the following month before I'd chase things up. So that what you're talking about would help with once I've sent the invoice. But even before that, I just couldn't keep a track of things.
So what you're talking about there is the difference between accounting packages and actually having a customer management program, which is what this does.
Customer management program is what I needed first, and I've hooked up with Xero for the accounting side of things since, and I'm still going to get my teeth around that properly. But the main thing was managing my business. Now, what happened was I'd looked at these things and I knew this was coming and I knew I had to do something. And Christmas was a really busy period. But I had about 4 days off or something, and my son-in-law was down. He's from Queensland. And I was just going toing and froing, and I said, look, I've heard about this one. And he says, that's what we use, mate. It's just brilliant. So I thought, okay, well, that's good. And the other thing was I was an Android phone user.
Yes.
Now,
that's the biggest hiccup I hear about this is if you are not on the Apple ecosystem, you've got to be on the Apple ecosystem to use ServiceMate.
When he said, yeah, this is the go, he used to be Android himself. And I knew that ServiceMate, I don't know if they still are, but they were offering to help you get an iPhone. So half of what I pay for my subscription is actually paying the phone off. So it was like a no-brainer. And when I got onto ServiceMate's website and I started looking at some of their tutorials and videos, and they answered this question, it made so much sense why they're focusing on that platform and staying with that platform.
Yeah.
So we did it. There's the phone, and happy days.
Yeah. So you're, in that sense, you're glad that they have forced your hand to switch over to the Apple ecosystem.
Yes. And the reasons they give, I think, are very solid. So I'm not phased at all with that. The only thing...
I'll have that out with them very soon because I'll be talking to them next week, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I will make sure that, in the padded dungeon that we put the boxing gloves on and we go, okay, why are you cutting out at least half, maybe more than half of your potential customers?
Yeah, and I think... I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm a sales rep for ServiceMate. I'm not. And I've had a couple of annoying sort of little annoying niggles along the way that are still there, in fact. But by and large, the actual entry to a different platform, and I mean, they're backing themselves too, I guess, because they've put that money aside to help you get a phone, and not just one phone. I think at the time, who knows if there's still funds there, but they were offering up to 5. So if you had a business with 2 or 3 employees, you could actually kick yourself up, get yourself onto the platform for no outlay. Now, if you were going to do more than one phone, I figured out you'd actually have to be signed on for 3 years to sort of make that worthwhile, in terms of if you weren't going to buy that phone yourself anyway. So I think it's it's a fair thing for me. Yeah.
Now, there's different price points for different people. So if you're running a business with 5 employees, for instance, and you're looking at getting all of them onto an iPhone, that's going to cost you a bit anyway. But
that's right.
You're probably not coming in at the $9.95 per month price point. No. So don't be thinking I'm going to join up for $9.95, have 5 employees there, get free iPhones, and it's going to be happy days.
It's not that. You've got to look at why you would be doing it and what makes sense to you financially, because you might be able to use something else like SwordScape or something or other much cheaper. But actually was one of the posts I read on one of the websites. I'm not sure it was LMCA or the other group. I can't remember. But whoever responded made a really good point. It was about, someone was saying, I use Henry or something. I don't need all this fancy stuff. Yeah. And this guy said, if it saves me 1 hour a month or a week, it's paid for itself. And that's what clicked in my brain. And I went, oh yeah, how much time am I spending, trying to do the admin sort of stuff. So it's saved me so much time. It's just not funny.
Now, do you know about Henry?
No, I don't. I've heard it mentioned, but I've never used it or seen it.
Today's the first day I've actually ever talked to anybody about Henry, and it was interesting. So they were using Henry. It's basically an alternative to using Xero or another accounting package.
Okay, yeah.
But it's sort of in between.
Yeah, right.
So it basically helps you to run a business so that you can check on those things you need to check on to make sure that you're profitable. So its focus is not necessarily your customer relationships like a CRM package is. Yeah. It's more about making sure that you know that you're running profitably. So it encourages you, like within the app, to allocate money to different things. So it's not like multiple different bank accounts. It's one app that says, okay, we're allocating from that dollar that you earned, we're allocating this amount to your expenses, this amounts to your GST, this amounts to insurance, this amount is to your wage.
Yeah, right. That
So
sounds interesting.
it does it within an app, and that way it helps people who are starting out in business to go, okay, I can actually make sure I'm running a business and not just winging it.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting point to bring up with the ServiceMate people, because I'm pretty sure they'd respond, well, we just sort of do the same thing. And they sort of do, but probably not to that level. And what I found was their dashboard for showing you like how much income per month, and you can look at the top amount of payers and things like that. So there is some statistics in there, but it's you've got to have the right data in there anyway for it to work with. Like if I look at mine, it'll tell me my quote rate's like really, really low, but I do very little lead kind of work. I've got my own customers, and it's the only quotes that I put in are because I've been asked to do something, or before I turn it into a work job, you know.
Yep.
It's there, so a lot of the quotes go by the wayside. But I'm not doing a lot of quotes, so the number of unsuccessful quotes is very, very high. But it's not a true scenario, you know. So
Now, if I understand correctly, a couple of people have said, "Oh, ServiceMate is not actually a CRM because it doesn't handle all of your leads and your marketing and that side of things. It handles it from when you actually get a customer, not so much from."
It's not a lead generation. Doesn't have a link for anything like that. Now, I've never worked in that sort of sphere. I'd never used Bizza or anything like that. So I really don't know how people manage if they've got a lot of leads and then a lot of quotes, because I see a lot of information about, you know, I'm quoting. Well, I don't do that. I've got my customers and that's it. I'll quote if I'm asked to, in particular for a particular job, but I'm not using any lead generation kind of software, you know.
It'll be interesting to talk to ServiceMate about that and just qualify whether they consider themselves a CRM and if they have a well-defined explanation to go, well, this is where we differ.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really good. I found it really, really good for managing schedule. If you've got a team of people out there, like plumbers, let's say, or it could be lawnnies as well, I suppose. And I mean, the nature of our business tends to be a lot of it's repeat stuff. We've got our customers and we're just scheduling, okay, I need to do that one monthly, that one fortnightly, whatever. Okay, they're not going to be there this week or something. So it's relatively minor adjustments, and you can set up recurring things so that, you know, your regular stuff is on a pattern. So then it's automatically popping up. Doesn't actually create the job, but it pops up so that you can then either knock it on the head or turn it into a job straight away, or wait till the week before when it will turn itself into a job automatically. So there's a few things there that makes your life easy, but you've got to drive it. All right, it'll drive you nuts if you just turn on. You know, I've found I've had to keep, pardon me, adjusting that kind of recurrent thing. At the moment, I've got them turned off while I plan for the next summer, because they would generate a job and I'd have all these jobs generated and not being done. So all the job numbers were sort of getting out of whack. So it's not going to make. You've got to drive it. Like any software, you've got to be in control of it and use it to the best advantage for your business.
I've noticed that. I've talking to a few people now, and that seems to be one of the significant factors, is that ServiceMate has all of those features available for you to be able to drive and get the most out of it. You're really going to get a lot out of it when you actually use all the features.
And that's my takeaway on it. I'm only using a very, very small portion of it, probably 5%, and it's made a huge difference to me. But I can see the power. And as with any kind of piece of software, generally, the more powerful it is, the more complex it is. I personally think they've done a really, really good job at making it as simple as possible. I could pretty much sit down and start working with it. And I've got a background in IT as well, so you know, it's not hard. It's not hard for me to grasp the concepts and look at it. And the other thing that I mentioned to you, and this sort of is a segue into it, one of the other things that got me across the line, besides the paying for the iPhone, because if they weren't going to do that, I probably wouldn't have purchased the software. My son-in-law is saying, yeah, it's great. This is what we use. You can take photos. You can coordinate with your colleagues, on the same job. So all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that, I forget where I was going with that.
You're talking about the one thing that got you over the line to
Yeah,
say it's
yeah,
worth
that's right.
doing.
The support. So I think it was like I said, Daniel was down over Christmas,
Yeah.
and I think it was Christmas Eve, or it might have been New Year's Day, something like that. And I thought, I just need to know a bit about this. So I can't remember what the question was. So I jumped on their chat, and straight away they're answering things. 24, I couldn't believe it, and really accurate information. They knew what they were on about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's only a couple of times where I couldn't explain what I wanted or what I was going with. But mostly, it's really, really very good.
And that's one of the things that has concerned me about using a CRM package like this. I've looked at a few of them and I've gone, you know what, jobbers in Canada, if you try and contact them in Canada, how long is it going to take for you to get an answer on something?
Yeah.
And is the software designed to work with the Australian currencies and work with mapping in the Australian maps, all those various different things. So going, all right, ServiceMate's actually designed in Australia. It should be viable, and the service support should be on the same time zone or within a couple of hours.
I believe, and this is the enigma for me, because I was looking for an Aussie mob. I want to support that. That's good. And because they had offices in the Northern Territory, I thought, okay, this is a good start. But if you do the chat, the call center, for that to be 24/7, a lot of the names that come up sound like they're offshore, but they're on top of it. They know the software. They can answer things, and they've got the email support as well. So it's been far, far, far better than I expected.
Awesome.
In that vein, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we don't want to make this call too long, because the main part of this podcast episode is going to be with the guys from ServiceMate. But
of course,
give us a quick breakdown of what features you utilize.
Okay. the scheduling.
Yep.
The recurrent stuff, so I can manage things. The other big one is the invoicing, right?
Yep.
Seeing what's outstanding for an invoice and being able to quickly, knock off where things are at in terms of paid invoices. It can send my customers that need a reminder at the beginning of the month. If what it does is sort of sends them a statement so they can see outstanding stuff. Yeah. So you can kind of send reminders, but it doesn't have to be to everyone. The other thing is you can create sites. So I do work for some aged care agencies. So for each agency, I can have a number of sites all requests. Okay. So if I'm sending the bill to someone for a number of different sites, it's easy to manage.
I wondered about that for my own benefit, because having one large contract, it's like you break that contract down into several sites and jobs, and you're okay, can I send an employee off to do a job and then another employee off to do another job while I'm working on a third job? And then it collates all that under the one customer.
Yes.
So it's easy for me to follow up and go, okay, I know where everything is.
Yeah. And you can, and I can look at the jobs for a particular site. Yep. Rather than have to filter through the individual contact's name. It does get a bit fiddly generating invoices, because you've got to be a bit, you can create your own templates and things like that. But, that's never all that easy. But if you can get that right, because often on my phone, I'll want to send an invoice, but it'll have the wrong contact. The contact for the site will be the person who's paying the bill. So there's a billing person and a contact. So sometimes they get mixed up. It's not ServiceMate's issue. It's not getting them mixed up. It's just me knowing which box to have them in, and I still get that mixed up.
I think for me, I would stay with Xero for doing my invoicing rather than invoicing through the CRM.
Yeah, I've only just gone to Xero for managing payroll and stuff. Actually, is why I started getting onto it, and I've got to get my head into, whether I use Xero to actually generate the invoices, or I'll still use ServiceMate and then just reconcile through Xero or something like that.
I know it sounds messy, but I think in a medium size where you've got those larger contracts, it probably makes sense to service a larger contract through Xero for the invoicing, but ServiceMate for your scheduling.
Yeah, quite possibly. And it's a matter of, sucking and seeing and what works for you, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because Xero is going to make it a lot easier for you to invoice a complicated contract.
Probably. I find ServiceMate's well, I don't know enough about Xero to sort of be able to compare them, but I know that ServiceMate has made invoicing really, really easy.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask ServiceMate more details on that because that could be something they probably have a good answer for it already.
But it is great that they hook up with Xero.
Yeah.
So if you're using Xero, it's
all integrated anyway.
seamless.
Yeah. Too easy.
And that stuff works quite well because if I approve an invoice now, even if I'm generating the invoice and emailing it or SMSing it to my customer via ServiceMate, that invoice still pops up in Xero for any reconciliation. I'm just not generating the invoice with Xero templates, but the invoice is still there, to reconcile once it's paid. And I haven't, as I've only just started, I think I can mark the invoices paid when the money comes into my bank account, and it will feed that information back into ServiceMate to tick it off. So I can do it from either side, from what I understand.
It sounds like you should be able to. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how you find that after you start doing it.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of teeth on that. Xero's a bit wow.
Are there any other things that sort of stand out you want to touch on quickly? Because I'm mindful of the time and don't want to keep you all evening.
No, I think we've covered all the things that's been a real benefit for me.
There's quite a few other things I could bring up that other people have talked about, but we were already recorded 20 minutes, and I've got that from other people.
Yeah.
So, it sounds good. All right. Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Dave.
Look forward to listening to the podcast when it comes up.
Yeah, it won't be too far out, I don't think. I think I'll be recording the majority of it with ServiceMate next week, and then we'll publish it shortly after.
Yeah, great.
So that should be good.
That's good.
And,
right.
it'd be good to touch base with you on that, maybe do a full episode with you sometime too. Yeah,
that'd be fun. I enjoyed listening to your interview with Jeff. You would have done that a few weeks ago, but I listened to it yesterday, clearing up the shed and stuff. And what I really enjoy about the podcast, not just yours, but there's always some piece of information somewhere in there, and it may not be a technical thing about, how long this blade of grass should be, but there's some background to the people. And I like listening to people's life stories.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like listening to Richard Feidler's, program on the ABC. Even if you think, this is a bit off track, you got to stay with it because there'll be a nugget of gold somewhere in that. And that's what it's like listening to your podcast.
Yeah, I like Richard Feidler's one. It's awesome. But I find it's a little bit hard for me interviewing people. I get distracted with motorbikes or whatever else it might be, and it's like, got to bring it back on track. We're really here to show people's interest in lawn mowing and running a business.
Probably happen with us because I've got an R1200 GS sitting in the shed waiting to go for a ride in a couple of weeks.
Nice. Yeah. Well, my road bike's getting angry with me at the moment. It's been too long since it's been out, so I'm favouring the dirt bike very heavily.
I took mine up for Rego yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's like 12 months since I rode it. Same thing, back up to the service station. And last year I remember saying to Ross, I said, mate, the only time I ride it when I come up there, I'm thinking of it, maybe I should sell it. And he said, mate, no, I know people with a lot more expensive toys than you. Don't worry about it.
I can imagine there's a lot of people with their hobby vehicle that just sits in the garage and gets driven once a month or once a year, or gets started once a month and driven once a year.
Yeah, there was a time, I won't hold you up, I know you're going to go. There was a time where I didn't have a car and all I rode was a bike. I taught motorcycle riding as well, so I lived and breathed it for a long time. Yeah. Now, starting this business, I just literally haven't had the time, haven't made the time, and I've got to shift gears and wind back so that I can actually do that sort of thing.
Well, judging by the amount of grey hairs that you got there, I reckon it's the time of life where you want to really enjoy life and make time for the things that are important.
I think so.
I try really hard to balance those things, and I have 3 other people that live in my house that constantly telling me they need more of my attention.
Yeah.
So But yeah, the motorbikes make more noise, so they win.
All right.
No worries. Good to talk to you, Dave.
Thanks, Gary. Cheers, mate. Good luck.
See ya.
Bye.
I've recently been running the Ego Select Cut 52cm mower. It's available in a contractor's kit specifically for those of us running them all day. Two 10 amp hour batteries and the turbocharger are all included in the contractor kit, bringing it in at $17.99. When mowing maintained lawns, you'll never run out of battery power as it recharges the 10 amp battery in 60 minutes. If you don't have access to charging while you work, you'll get through an average 8-hour residential day with 4 to 5 10 amp hour batteries. This will vary significantly depending on the type of grass and frequency of cut. As you well know, there are many variables on residential jobs that affect the amount of time you spend mowing and how much load you put on the mower. This is the first battery-powered mower I've used that is a serious alternative to petrol-powered push or self-propelled 21-inch mowers. While there are now several options in this space, the Ego meets amazing value, and I'd rate it well above the consumer grade. In fact, I think it fills the prosumer niche in this category perfectly. Welcome to the dungeon, Mark.
Well, it's nice to actually see the dungeon, not just talk about it.
Yeah, we were just admiring how good the dungeon can hide the screams from the rest of the. That's pretty decent, but
Yes.
It's a little bit too colourful for some people.
Oh, it's all right. I thought it was artwork. So
Well, you got a bit of splash of colour there, so it hides the splash of blood, but all good. So let's get on topic instead of this talk. So, Mark, I'm going to talk to ServiceMate very soon. And you use ServiceMate.
I do.
So this is a rapid fire. We've only got like 10 minutes max.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What do you use on ServiceMate that works really well? What do you hate about ServiceMate?
Firstly, I think the second part of that question, I don't really have any hate with it, to be honest.
You don't hate that it's Apple only?
Well, no, because I'm an Apple user. So
it's another one.
Probably,
I like Apple users, but that's got to come up for some people.
Look, I use it for communication with my clients. Is one really big part of it. It does everything automatically, automated SMS. So the customers get a SMS prior. So this is for regular services. So they know you're coming 3 days prior. I think that what it has the ability to allow you to do is record that transaction from the first phone call you've got with the client all the way to the job's completed. It's got potential to help you in court if someone doesn't want to pay a bill. So, you've got that communication always there. So
Let's just touch on this because I saw somebody saying that ServiceMate is not really a CRM because it doesn't handle from the job lead right the way through to job completion.
Yeah,
and it sounds like it does.
Conversation on LMCA, and I think, possibly correct, but I can't remember the guy's name in there now, was sending me some links. There is some third party that can integrate in to help with proper CRM. So he's talking about email marketing, stuff like that, where I'm talking about, say, customer rings you up, books a job. You don't know customer, you've never met them, but you've been booked to go and mow their yard.
Yep.
I use it straight away. I send a confirmation of booking text message. So let's look at the back end. Job's done. Old mate said, "Hey, I never booked you to mow the yard." You go, "Well, here's the phone call on my phone. Here's the text message saying the job's been confirmed." You go and do the job, so you take a picture of the job on the job card.
Yep.
Before, after, your invoice out of there. You do your follow up. It's just it does all that side of job management and scheduling really well. So
scheduling, route scheduling, job scheduling, invoicing, notifying the customer that you're on your way to do the job. So that notification to the customer only goes when you tell them you're on your way to the job. Can you send them notification the day before and say we're scheduled to mow tomorrow?
Yeah, so I've got it set for all my regular customers.
Yep.
To send them a reminder text message 3 days before we go.
Yeah.
Gives them 72 hours notice that we're turning up on site.
Okay.
And it gives them the date and the time and approximate time of when you're going to turn up. Once you get your scheduling right in there, it's scary accurate how often you'll turn up within maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes.
I reading between the lines, it sounds to me like this sort of software or app is really good for people in our industry, particularly those that are on the spectrum.
Yeah, I think, well, maybe I'm there.
I
Look,
wasn't going to say that about you, but
yeah.
we're friends.
Look, you and I know we discussed, you asked me a question before we did this, why I picked ServiceMate. And from memory, it was a fair bit to do with Xero, with its integration into my accounting.
Yeah, okay.
So it does that really well. And then I was thinking about that since you and I spoke about it. And I have used similar software in service industries before. So my background's workshop management, so I'm a diesel fitter. So I've been running heavy and light vehicle equipment workshops pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And I've used and set up companies to run on very similar software. So I was thinking about it the other day because you said, why did you pick it?
Yeah.
And I remember now, I wrote down a list of everything I wanted. So I wanted the SMS. I wanted the invoicing on the go. I wanted to be able to track man hours, like where you were, how long you were on the job, so that I can work out efficiencies in this job. Because let's face it, with lawn mowing, it's about efficiencies, as simple as that.
So the difference between billable hours and unbillable hours, how many hours are you mowing versus how many hours are you picking your nose?
And ServiceMate ticked everything there based on the software that I'd used in previous companies, which are all, at the end of the day, they're all service industries. So
if I understand correctly, there's a little bit of an issue there. If you've got an employee that spends half an hour mowing and half an hour talking to the customer, they're going to log it as 1 hour on the job, right?
That's right.
So it's hard for ServiceMate to differentiate between whether the worker is physically mowing the yard or cutting the neighbour's grass.
Yeah, like I think if you're using it properly, you should see the time they left one job. Okay, so, and you should see them travelling.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't take much to work out that they left one job at 10 o'clock and they should have been at the next job at 10:05, and they probably should have started mowing at 10:15.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you can't put a motion detector on that worker, I suppose, to see what they're doing.
You would also start to see a huge variation in job times if they are spending time having jam and donuts.
That's right. And you look at what it actually costs to do the job versus what you quoted. So, you should get flagged straight away. Like, and you can go to the highest level in ServiceMate and do profit and loss on every single job if you wanted.
Yeah, okay.
So, you should be seeing it at the back end. It'd flag pretty quickly if you processed a $100 lawnmower job that cost you $100 to do, and you'd be going, you're either underquoted or you need to go in and have a look at how long that employee took.
So when you talk about profit and loss, if you're in Xero, which is for everyone who doesn't use it, that's the accounting package that a lot of us do use, Xero will show a profit and loss statement that looks at your expenses and your incoming and works out how much is the difference. Whereas what you're talking about here, profit and loss, is looking at the amount of billable time versus the amount that you actually bill for and the amount of unbillable time.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to give ServiceMate some information. So you're going to have to say my labour cost.
Yep.
It's labour cost, which really in this game should absorb all overheads.
Yeah.
And if you've got 2 employees, then that cost gets split in half plus labour cost, and got 3 employees, all your overheads minus 3. So you need to put a figure in there.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is the profit and loss that you're talking about recording in ServiceMate compared to what you're recording in your accounting package is a much deeper dive into what it costs you for the time on the job and the time in between the jobs.
Your profit and loss that you'll do in ServiceMate would be using the information that you've probably worked out using an accounting software to start.
Yeah.
So you looked at all your overheads for the year. So, and I think it's talked about a fair bit on LMCA. So, and everybody's different. Like every business is different. You can have 2 solo operators that run. One might be like me. I run a $15,000 ute, and I see other guys running around in $75,000 utes. So,
yeah, for sure.
There's going to be a massive difference in your costs there.
But even for those of us who have got a really good accountant and we spend a lot of time looking over our numbers,
Yep.
going to a CRM or a software package like ServiceMate allows you to have a more thorough look at what
Yep.
it looks like from day to day and what where your efficiencies are.
Yep. Well, how I use it, I'm running around on my own pretty much again now. Like I've done away with casuals and all that.
Yeah.
I look at every job at the end of every year. So if I've done, let's say, 26 cuts for the year, just because it's nice, easy numbers, and I look at every single one of those cuts that I did on that job for the entire year at the end of the year, or I do price increases, at the back end of autumn. I think is a good time before winter,
Yeah.
while there's still plenty of work going on. It might change from season to season. There's no way in the world I'd do a price rise right now. What ServiceMate allows me to do there is I can see travel time, I can see actual cut time,
Yep.
and it doesn't take very long to work out whether what you're charging is correct or what you're charging is too cheap if you've got your accounting worked out.
Yeah.
So it gives you that
go,
advantage. That's how I use it as a solo operator. So I'm not so much profit and lossing every single job, but it can be done. If I was running a team of employees, I'd be doing profit and loss on the job, every single job.
Yeah.
And that's how you'll find out if you've got something wrong. You've either underquoted or, you might have a team turn up to a job and the customer's gone, oh, yeah, this was included. You're going to hand weed this entire garden. It could be numerous things, but you're going to see it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going into a potential recession, certainly an economic crisis that we're looking at the moment, a lot of people would have previously said, just put your prices up until you're profitable. And what ServiceMate's saying and what you're saying is there's a few other levers you can pull to make sure your efficiency is spot on so that when your price is right, you're the most efficient business that you can be.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Maximum profit.
I've got my jobs priced to allow for the travel to the job, doing the job, and invoicing on the job. They're the three things. So that's most of my unbillable hours covered in a day.
Yeah. Hey, look, we're running out of time, Mark. Yep. I want to ask you, as a finish up on this topic, there's the opportunity for a new person coming in to start a business. They could start with ServiceMate at $9.95, I think it is per month.
Something like that from memory.
And then there's another guy I spoke to who's spending like the top package, which is close to $400 a month.
Yep.
For an average lawn care business, it's pushing somewhere between 50 and 120 jobs that like regular customers. Does that put them in similar category to you? Are we talking sort of, I think there's an $80 a month and $150 a month package.
I think I'm in that $80 a month bracket from memory.
Yeah. So those two are probably the primary targets for lawn care businesses, aren't they? The $80 or the $150 a month.
Yeah, the $80 a month, and you get your money back straight away. I just it's shockingly efficient way of scheduling rather than trying to do it on a pen and paper in a diary.
Yeah, well, if you look at it from the point of view of somebody who's turning over $10,000 a month, $80 is not much. No. If you look at it from somebody who's turning over $20,000 a month, then it's even easier to justify it. But take the turnover out of it and just go, okay, if we can save an hour of unbillable time that you're sitting in front of the computer scheduling, that $80 is paid for. Well, and most people spend that hour scheduling probably every day or at least a couple of times a week.
Well, put it this way, Gary, I probably spend 15 minutes back end when I get home.
Yep.
And that's just approving everything that's in Xero because it's already done on the job. It's all sitting in Xero waiting for me to approve it. And I don't even look at what I'm doing the next day most days. I just get up. I get up in the morning, look at my phone and go, oh, that's what I'm doing today.
So that's more time on the job or more time with your family?
It's more time on the job and more time for your family. That's right. I don't even think about what I'm doing during the week unless I get a phone call, which is a one-off job.
Nice.
Don't even think about it. It's automatically done. So
you haven't said a lot about what you hate about using ServiceMate. So
about the only thing that I have like that's annoying, I think that's probably a lot more to do with Telstra or Optus.
Yeah.
is sometimes the GPS tracking that's built into it can glitch.
Okay, yeah.
But you get notifications. So it might be that you're on the job and it'll give you a notification that you've left the job.
Okay.
And it's a quick button, undo it or fix it. That's about the only thing. And it just seems to have been maybe in the last month. And I really don't think that's a ServiceMate issue. I think that's probably more to do with your mobile phone coverage. But
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so because it's GPS tracking you all day.
Yeah. I have heard one person complain about not just ServiceMate, but any of these packages, in that if you don't have phone service, then the package doesn't work.
Yeah, well, nah, don't know. Haven't tried it without phone service, to be honest.
Well, that person had that complaint. It wasn't ServiceMate they were even using, but it was a justified complaint. If you're working in remote areas where you have no service, how's it going to work? And it won't.
But if you've got GPS tracking's not going to work, is it? So, that might not work. But your phone still knows what time it is, so I can't see why the actual app wouldn't work.
Yeah, so the app itself might be able to work, but the connectivity is going to be really limited. So some of the features are going to be less functional.
That'll be a good question when you get ServiceMate guys or girls.
Don't you worry, I'll be asking Michael lots of questions.
Like I haven't run into that. I do know just you do see glitching with the GPS tracking. And I stick to the GPS tracking even for myself. Because it tells me at the end of every job whether or not my quote was right.
Yeah.
I can see it. You can see it instantly because you've got it right in front of you.
Nice.
You know exactly how long it took you to drive there and how long it took you to do the job. So,
yeah, nice. Well, Mark, you have a way of taking up more of my time than I need, so I'm going to have to say goodbye.
All right, Gary.
Have a good one.
Yeah, take care, mate. See ya.
See ya.
Aussie Lawn Stars tells you about trimmer bars and trailer scars. We've got the stories, the advice, and insights you want to hear.
Michael, welcome to the Aussie Lawn Stars dungeon. I know everybody can see us today, so look around. You've got some nice bright colours behind you there.
Yeah.
And I've got some nice bright colours along with a little bit of wood grain just to keep the dungeon theme happening. But I can't see your shirt. Can you just show everyone? So, there we go. They're not just seeing the icon, we're seeing the full name there. ServiceMate.
Thank you very much for having me. Joining live from the ServiceMate dungeon. So,
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Gary.
So it's a ServiceMate dungeon sort of built out like mine is with all the chains and the straps and the swing set.
No, we packed them away. This is mostly our video filming dungeon. So we've got a lot of padding on the walls and I've got these bright lights shining up.
Mine is mostly audio recording, but I'm trying to do a couple with the video recording. And so you can see around us, we got some nice bright coloured sound insulation from Bunnings.
Oh, nice.
And it works. It sounds really good in here. If I bang the desk, it has a fairly silent thud.
Yeah, no, it makes a massive difference in terms of the quality of the audio and having all this lighting and stuff. It just makes filming so much easier. So for sure.
Yeah. And I've deliberately created some dungeon lighting, so you can see there's a bit of a light coming up from down below. There's light coming from up here.
Sinister lighting.
I think I just need some that change colours. Then it'll be real good. Get the orange glow happening.
Yeah, disco.
It might not work well with my skin. I'm not sure anything works well with my skin, but we won't know. So, Michael, we've done a quick introduction. You're from ServiceMate, but we haven't talked about motorbikes yet. So we need to cover this obligatory topic. You love to ride, I believe, but what do you ride?
I ride mountain bikes, not motorbikes, unfortunately. But yeah, I ride a dual suspension. It's a common cell meta trail for anyone into mountain bikes.
You've lost me there. It's so long since I've actually been serious into mountain biking. I can't say that I actually understand what it is. It's not an e-bike, is it?
No, not an e-bike.
That's good.
Yeah, it's just it's a 27.5 inch wheel mountain bike. So it's dual suspension. It does the trick. It's very fun to ride and try to get out as much as I can, but with two small children, it doesn't happen as often as I'd like. So,
I know how that feels. I've got a a bright orange Cannondale 27.5 sitting in my shed.
Nice one.
And it is so much easier for me to put the running shoes on and duck out for 10, 15 minutes and go for a run than it is to put the mountain bike gear on and go.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, it's essentially the time of day too. Like the kids are awake during daylight hours, so you got to prioritize them and after working on the weekends. But yeah, so it's essentially exercising at nighttime, and you can't really shoot down a trail in the dark these days. So
while we're both in the dungeon, I've been admiring your physique. I'm guessing that you are a cross-country rider, not a downhill rider.
No, I don't love the idea of cross-country, so I definitely prefer downhill riding. We don't really have the terrain to play with up here, so there's no mountains.
Okay, so when you say up here, you're up northern Queensland.
No, we're in Darwin. So.
Oh, hang on a minute. I was picturing, Cairns, tropical, big hills.
Yeah, no, that's great for mountain biking there. But yeah, we've only got a few short runs here in Darwin, but we make it work. So
nice. Very good. Well, I think we've just lost half the audience talking about
Sorry, guys.
two wheels, but I'm going to force them. I'm going to corrupt them or convert them one way or another. So, I guess the real reason we're here is because 13 years ago, Gary Ashton started a lawn care business, and today there's 28 million people in Australia, and I'm going to say 26 million of those they're dissatisfied with their job and they're thinking about starting a small business. So those people who have started a lawn care business or they are thinking of starting a lawn care business, they are interesting to me, and I'm sure they're interesting to you as well. But give most people a quick rundown, and most people listening are already thinking about this, so it'll make sense to them. They come into this industry with a bright idea and the ability to work and physically push a mower around, grab a whippersnapper and a blower and, tidy somebody's yard up, charge them $50 or $500 or whatever they might charge for each particular job and move on to the next one. So I guess what I'm getting at is they start a business with probably anywhere from $500 worth a year through to $50,000 worth a year, depending on how they approach it.
Yep.
If they're like me 13 years ago, I really knew what I was doing, right? I talked to an accountant and I scrapped them. I went to the next accountant, interviewed them, and I was like, all right, they actually know how to set up a business, so that's great. And then I said to them, I said, I'm going to do a spreadsheet and that's going to be my bookkeeping. And then I'm going to use a Word document to send my invoices, and I'm going to use Apple Calendar to schedule those jobs.
Yep.
Hope you're not cringing too much.
No. So, we hear it a lot. It still happens, so for sure.
I know. I talk to people regularly where it still happens. And I'm like, oh, look, you're costing yourself so much in the amount of effort you're putting in versus the benefit you get from doing it that way. So, yes, you're saving dollars by not having a subscription fee for an accounting package or a scheduling software package, but it's painful. You miss jobs, all manner of different things. And I'm speaking from my own experience there. I know the amount of time I have consumed to putting customers in a spreadsheet, pulling old customers out of the spreadsheet, grouping customers by color coding to work out where they are and if they're on Tuesday or Wednesday or week 1 or week 2.
Yep.
Do I put their phone numbers in there? Do I put their addresses in there? Do I just put a smiley face and a frowny face? All these sorts of things.
Yeah, I get it. And there's probably a couple of reasons for that, why people start out that way. Like you said, they might be reluctant to invest more into the overheads of the business. They simply might not know that solutions for these kinds of things exist out there. Or they might have come from, they might have worked for someone else in the same industry before and they've just picked up all of their habits and the way that they did things. Because before the cloud, before mobile technology like the iPhone, like a lot of these solutions didn't exist or weren't accessible to small businesses.
On that front,
enterprise.
I spoke to a Jim's Mowing franchise before I started mine. And back in 2010 when I started, and it might have been even 2009 when I spoke to him, but back then he was doing all of his scheduling on a paper notebook.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I thought I was one up by using a spreadsheet.
Black diary, I think lots of people have been there.
And I know there still are people that do it that way, but I thought I was pretty cool because I was using a spreadsheet and a calendar on my phone instead.
Yeah, no, like small business owners, they just get by the best they can, and yeah, there can be a combination of all these things. Paper notebooks and diaries, scraps of paper, or like yourself, creating a system out of spreadsheets and Microsoft Word and email and calendar, maybe throwing in some instant messaging in the mix, and they bring all of these systems together just to make it work. And yeah.
So I found a number of problems with the way I was doing that. One is that I would have to translate from my calendar to my spreadsheet to my Word document to get an invoice out. So I would often invoice once a month. And I hope nobody heard me say that. Invoicing once a month is not a good idea.
No, definitely not something we'd advocate. So,
right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the pitfalls of doing it manually is you're inclined to do it less often and you then forget what you've done. And yes, I have done that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you look at the translation and it's like me telling my mum to tell my brother something. If I get on the phone to my brother and I say, hey, Dave, need to talk to you, he hears me. If I say, hey, Mum, can you tell Dave X, Y, Z? He doesn't hear me.
Yeah, I think that's the reality. If you spread all of these bits of information and across various different systems, like only you and that information in your head, you understand it, but it doesn't translate well to anyone else that has to pick it up and run with it. And it's hard to keep track. You easily lose things. So there's definitely benefits to keeping all of that stuff in one place, in one workflow, for sure.
Another problem I had, and I'm thinking of one particular customer at the moment, but they're just a good example of the problem overall. There was lots of customers. You'd turn up, you'd do the job, you'd go knock on their door. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have cash. Can you come back in an hour?
Oof.
Or can you come back tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the case. Yeah, some customers, they just don't appreciate what it takes to run a small business. And the ones that are just like, no, we don't need that service this week. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Look, I think some of them don't appreciate it. And some of them, they know that they're taking you for a ride. They're like, oh, yeah, come back and get the money. Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've had lots of issues that I've tried to resolve in various different ways. I went to, from invoicing monthly to going, I'm going to invoice once a week, or I'm going to invoice every day, or I bought a Square credit card reader so that when that customer said, I don't have the cash, I'm like, well, here, I'm not leaving without something.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a credit card and you don't have the cash, then you're not a customer.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, for sure.
So there's various different methods I've had of trying to whittle that down. I think probably the biggest benefit I have seen to date has been to switch from the spreadsheet to using Xero, which has revolutionized the invoicing side of my business and allowed me to really easily see the cash flow and the expense ratios, all the various different things you can use a good bookkeeping software package to do. And the accountants that I use, they put me onto Xero because that's what they use. So it meant, at the end of the financial year, okay, hey, Adrian, tax time, it's all there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And most a good accountant or bookkeeper will force you to use accounting software like Xero.
Yes.
Because it just makes so much sense. I mean, it sounds bad coming from me, but it should be the first bit of software that you get as a small business owner is cloud-based accounting software.
No,
the second one should be ServiceMate. So
yeah, no, that's not bad at all. I believe and I agree with you 100%. So you go and sign up for Xero or another accounting package, but I use Xero, so I can talk about that.
Yep.
And that works well. If you go to an accountant and you say, hey, here's my spreadsheet at the end of the financial year and a pile of receipts, you're paying the accountant to put all of that stuff through their system. So it's going to cost you more. And chances are that accountant is only doing your tax return. They're not actually helping you with your business in any way.
No, it'll just be busy work for them, which they'll happily charge you for. But yeah, they're not in a position to give you much advisory service there. and actually help you, grow your business or gain efficiencies or optimize. So yeah, definitely.
And chances are, if they are helping you gain efficiencies, the first thing they're going to say is scrap the spreadsheet, get Xero, and get ServiceMate.
Yeah, and I think, like I said before, like a good accountant or bookkeeper, they just won't work with you unless you use software like Xero.
So, look, we've covered a couple of things there, but we haven't really touched on why somebody will use ServiceMate. We've sort of given some anecdotes as to why I've been behind the eight ball by not using something like ServiceMate. But when you get people come to ServiceMate, what would you say are the top 5 reasons why they are going, okay, I need something to sort out a problem? What's the problems they're trying to solve?
So I'd say there's a few different angles they come to ServiceMate. Ideally, it'll be at the point where they're starting a business for the first time and they're doing their research and they understand the benefits of putting those systems and processes in place from day one. And that's definitely, a cohort of the people that start with ServiceMate. It's not the majority. And then you'll have businesses that are just struggling. They're drowning in paperwork. They're struggling to keep track of their jobs and the staff and the clients. And it's causing a lot of issues in the business in terms of productivity and efficiency, time to quote, time to invoice, invoiced and cash flow, and the standard of their service and professionalism. So it can have a lot of impacts across the board if you're using some of those kind of systems we talked about earlier, like paper-based systems and spreadsheets. Once you get to a certain scale, then using those systems that aren't fit for purpose, they manifest in these problems in your business that affect your productivity, your cash flow, your service, your quality of life, how much admin time you're spending after hours and on weekends just to keep up, and where you're losing sight of those reasons why you started your business. So they're experiencing that pain and they're looking for a solution.
And I think I'm a poster child for having done that the wrong way, for being a cowboy in the start of my business and going, yep, I can jerry-rig this myself. I don't need to use anything. I can make work with what I've got.
Yeah.
And it has cost my business.
That's true. I mean, but it's that entrepreneurial kind of attitude too, like make it work, make do with what I've got kind of thing. And I suppose just to add one more is maybe a mix of that second persona, that second kind of business that's struggling to keep track and drowning, but where they might not just want to get back to the reasons why. It's like regain control of their business and reclaim their lifestyle and that time to spend with family and friends. But they might also want to get in a position where they can grow the business. So they might not be able to run any faster with those systems they've got. And they've hit this growth ceiling where they just can't do any more jobs or gain any more productivity or efficiency or get any more revenue. So they need to transition to a different system, a different approach to break through that growth ceiling and get to that next level. So they're probably the main 3 kind of businesses and people that would come to us, I'd say.
Yeah, and I can really appreciate that because I've bounced off that growth ceiling numerous times. And one of the factors I've talked about previously on the podcast is having the right ratio between expenses and wages and profit.
Yep.
And we won't bore people too much with that right now, but if you don't know, go back and listen to previous episodes where we talk about getting that right.
So you actually
have profit after you pay wages, because if you grow and you put on an employee and you find that by the time you pay their wages, you're losing money, you're in the wrong business.
Yep.
So, yeah. But that's something that's important. And you're saying ServiceMate can help you to grow through that phase. And I can see from the perspective of looking at unbillable hours, that's a catchphrase. I really want to try and avoid using catchphrases here. So if we break that down, you're sitting in front of your computer or your phone, your iPad, whatever it is, and you're trying to punch out invoices. You're not getting paid for that time.
That's right. Yep.
So same goes when you're trying to create your schedule for the next day. You're not getting paid for that time. So any effort you can make to minimize the amount of time it takes to do those jobs increases your profitability without having to charge more.
Yeah, for sure. And and that could be the trade-off of spending time on the computer or an admin when you literally could be out on the tools making money, or it could just be simply spending time on the computer where you could be spending time with your family. So, I mean, those different people that might have different priorities as to what they'd rather be doing. And I suppose I think you've talked about the different reasons people come into this industry. You know, are you running it for a lifestyle reason, or do you want to grow the business and kick more goals that way? So,
and it's okay for both. But if you get these systems in place properly in the first place, then you can do both, and you're going to be knowing that your business is sustainable.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
I talked about it in my early days. I worked out I was charging $50 an hour, not telling the customer my hourly rate, but that's how I was quoting, was going, okay, this job's going to take me 45 minutes. I'm going to charge $45 for that one. And, you know, if it's less than half an hour, my minimum price was somewhere around $40. But what I worked out is that based on that hourly rate, by the time I looked at my unbillable hours, I was doing almost as many unbillable hours as I was doing hours on the tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
sure.
I broke it down. I go, okay, for $50 an hour, there's $25 in expenses and $25 in wages. And then I'm going, okay, because that is my billable time, add the unbillable time in there, and I'm working for $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And then I realized that there were a few other unbillable items, and all of a sudden I'm going, maybe it's less than $10 an hour I'm working for, which is a little bit depressing.
Yeah, it can definitely creep up on you, I suppose, all of that, those unbillable hours that it takes to run a business. And I suppose, what I suppose we're talking about is those systems that are out there and those solutions to streamline or automate a whole lot of that administration, that paperwork. Anything that you're doing to run your business that isn't what you're being paid to do should be under the microscope and scrutinized in terms of, can I do this better? So what I mean by that is, like, literally one of our visions is only do what you're being paid to do. So if you're a lawn care contractor, you should only really be doing, what you love and enjoy doing, and what you're being paid to do is to take care of people's lawns and gardens. So that's kind of our real vision into the future of where we want to get to in terms of automating and streamlining everything else surrounding the operations and running of that business. So, and it can be as simple as solutions that help you, visualize your schedule and optimize that to make sure you're filling out your day and your staff members' days in terms of maximizing billable hours and minimizing any other time that you're not being paid for, unproductive time, and giving you the tools to give you that insight on a regular basis as to how you're tracking towards those goals. So,
yeah, I think in the early days, I worked out that if I paid my expenses and I paid the wages for an employee, all the effort I had to put in to have that happen was free. So there's different ways of splitting that or skinning that cat. But yeah, it's like, it's not great. So what I'm getting at is that in business, particularly small business where you do try and scale, you've got two levers. You can pull on this one going, all right, I'm working for free because of my admin duties and my CEO duties and my marketing duties, whatever they are. Yep. My maintenance, because I'm the maintenance person and the mechanic as well as the admin and the HR and the marketing. So I can pull this lever, which says instead of charging $50, I charge $100. Or I can go over here on this side and I can pull the other lever, which says, okay, let's see if we can automate some of these processes, which is where we come to ServiceMate. Yep. So I think the reason I chose to speak to ServiceMate instead of any one of a number of companies is the title. You're talking about a package that is designed for the service industry. Yep. And it's got also in the title the Australian link with Mate. So I was like, talk to me about that. That's good. I want to know more.
I think I probably haven't asked the CEO how he came to that name specifically recently anyway. But you're bang on in terms of the word service, and it's probably got a couple of different angles to it. So we are focused on small businesses in the service maintenance and the recurring service industries. And we also have a really big focus on helping them deliver great customer service and a great customer experience. So that is something we've built on over a decade or more in terms of how much communication and relationship management comes with the ServiceMate product to help you deliver a great customer experience. And a lot of that is automated, and the rest of it is streamlined in some way. So
the couple of keywords you dropped there, which really stand out to me, is that you're focusing on the service industry and services that have a recurring revenue.
Yep.
Lawn mowing, gardening, landscape maintenance.
Yeah.
They are that. And I mean, there's obviously other service industries which fill that requirement as well. But for people listening to this podcast, 100%, that's what your software is designed to manage. So
we'd probably break it into kind of service maintenance, kind of break fix industries, like your typical electricians and plumbers, air conditioning, fridges.
All the trades.
Yeah, all the trades, but also the recurring industries like yourself, lawn and garden care, pool care, pest control, cleaning, and particularly those that do that service maintenance style of work. And that what that involves is trying to manage a high volume of smaller, shorter jobs coming through the business. So that's why we have kind of helped pioneer this job management category, because we manage jobs, not projects. So that's trying to manage that high volume of small, short jobs, and the chaos of trying to manage that volume of administration and clients coming through the business is a niche of ours and something that we can really help with.
I see an angle here that I need to clarify. A lot of people will label software like yours as a CRM, customer relationship management software. I think that's what it stands for.
Yep.
And then somebody else will pipe up and say, no, ServiceMate is not a full CRM, because a full CRM should do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, well, I don't really care what the difference is. In essence, what you're doing, and let's break down some of the things that you do. So when somebody starts a lawn care business, one of the first things they want to look at is that scheduling those recurring jobs. Yep. That's probably the number one reason why I would sign up with ServiceMate at the moment. Is I can schedule my recurring jobs easily. And unlike calendar, when I go to the customer and I do the job, the workflow with ServiceMate means I've got several options, but essentially when I turn up to do the job, it's either automatically or manually. I select that I'm at the job, done, take a before photo, take an after photo. They get recorded in ServiceMate.
Yep.
And then at the end of the job, you can invoice from ServiceMate.
Correct. And take payment.
And then it automatically goes, all right, here's your next job.
Correct. Yep.
So I believe, what's the route scheduling look like? How much intelligence is behind looking at setting up routes that are more efficient? It
depends on how much you want to teach ServiceMate how you price and schedule jobs. So you can actually, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with this, but we've got an add-on called Services, where you can essentially teach ServiceMate how you price and schedule jobs, which staff can do the job, those kinds of things, how long it's going to take, different variables which affect the length of the job, those kinds of things. And then you can let ServiceMate automatically schedule all of those jobs for things like route optimization. So there's that element of it. And then there's just some more basic elements in terms of just being able to visualize what jobs you've got on in a map or something like that, and just optimizing it that way. So
can I ask a question about that one? And I'm not expecting a detailed answer here, but just a bit of a guide.
Yep.
I'm near Newcastle. So say I've got half a dozen jobs for the day.
Yep.
First one is 5 minutes from home in the same suburb as me. The next one is 45 minutes from home in the middle of Newcastle. The next one is 45 minutes in the opposite direction down on the Central Coast. and I don't do this, right? But say they're that sort of distance apart, I've got to go down to Sydney up to the Central Coast.
Yep.
Will it help me to work out which job's closest so I can go, all right, boom, boom, boom in a line and schedule the jobs according to a route like that?
Not standard jobs. So there's not a magic button that'll automatically reroute them all. We've played with those kinds of ideas, and we still are playing with them. But there's generally other factors at play in terms of you can't just reshuffle all of your jobs on a day, because a lot of the time people are expecting you at a certain time. So how do you exclude those, and apply all those filters? So I think
it's going to require some human intervention to make sure that you're thinking about which jobs you want done on a certain day. So if you know you're doing one suburb or a couple of streets that are got a lot of jobs in those areas, schedule them all on the same day.
Yeah.
And
so I think there's
a human decision.
Different tools and interfaces you can use to try and optimize that way. But we're still thinking about magic buttons that do it all magically without creating a big damn mess. So yeah.
Yeah, and there is the risk that if it's done magically, that they might send you off to Dubbo instead of Sydney.
As long as you enter the address correctly and let it geocode and select from the drop down at the start, then that's pretty safe. But if you just enter it in as free text, then it might try and find you, the same street in a different state or something. So
that I guess there's a lot of potential there when you do it magically for it to not see the same priorities that you as a person would see.
Yeah, and your clients as well. So it's a worthy challenge, and it's not something we've written off, but yeah.
Okay, so one of the other things that I've actually spoken to people recently about as well, but this comes up when I talk to people about ServiceMate. It also just comes up when I talk to people who are using the old spreadsheet and manual methods. Do you tell a customer before you're coming, or do you set the expectation that I'm just going to turn up when I turn up and deal with it? And I think ServiceMate gives us some flexibility there in terms of how that works.
Yeah. So at a high level, you can do a few different things. You can send them an automated booking confirmation. So if it's, let's say you just want to do a quote for a client and you want to give them a really good experience before you've even met them, you can arrange a booking time, and as soon as you've booked it in and closed that job, it'll automatically send them a booking confirmation email and text based on a template that you create.
Okay.
You can then set a booking reminder closer to the date, a few hours or a day beforehand, an email or a text to go out to them, just reminding them that there's that quote that Gary Gaz's Grass is coming around tomorrow.
That's it.
You can
so you can choose what words get sent to them, and a love heart, kiss, kiss.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got standard templates to start with, but you can customize those. Then when you're actually driving towards them, you can just say notify the client, and that will send an automatic SMS to them saying Gary from Gaz's Grass is on his way. He'll be there in 14 minutes. You can even click a link and track you towards the job site, just like you would an Uber driver or something like that. So before you even pull up in the driveway, you've made that customer service impression, and that will help you deliver that higher standard of service and communication, which will hopefully position you to charge more.
And that's a feature you can choose to use or choose not to use.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so you can choose to use these or not in a recurring job scenario. So it might depend on the client as to whether or not they want to receive that. If it's an elderly client or a retiree, they might really want to know that you will be there tomorrow. And I don't know how many people might be doing that manually, sending each client a text message the night before or something like that. But that can be completely automated and give the customer that peace of mind that you will be there tomorrow. And you might not want to set an exact time, say 10 o'clock. You might want to set a window where you'll say, we'll be there between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock or something. So just to give you that little bit of a buffer while maintaining that level of communication and service. So all of those kinds of reminders can be automated.
Can I throw a quote in the middle of the day there? So say I've got 6 jobs to do in that one day. I'm going from my place to Newcastle to Central Coast to Sydney, and I go, I want to do a quote in there. Just throw in an item that is a quote rather than a job.
Yep.
What does that look like? Does that is it you put it in as quote and then you convert it to a job if they approve it?
Yeah, correct. So we've got 4 job statuses, and the main 2 are quote and work order. So if you need to provide a quote first, you create that job card, save the client's details, their name, their address, their contact details, enter in a bit of a description of what they're after, and you can then close that job card, schedule it to yourself at a time that makes sense. And if you want, you can send out those automatic reminders and booking confirmations. And that'll be in your schedule to make sure you go and do that at the right place at the right time. And then if they, you can generate the PDF quote on site. You can email or text that to the client. You can even automatically have that followed up in a few days or a week by an email or a text if you don't hear back from them. And if they do accept, they can accept that quote online. That'll automatically convert the job card to a work order, and you can go and do that job. And then from there, I suppose you would decide whether you want to create a new recurring job for that client and set them up that way. So,
okay, that's good because I like the terminology you're using there. I know with commercial clients, if you are quoting a larger business, they're going to be like, okay, what's the job number? What's the quote number?
Yep.
Convert that from a quote to a work order.
Yep. Yeah.
And
so
then,
every job card is automatically allocated the next job number in sequence, and it just carries that reference number from the very moment that you create it as a quote or a work order through to your accounting software. So there's always one single job number.
Okay.
That if you reference that number, you will find the right job card for the right client.
That's good to know.
System, so.
Awesome. Okay, what if you've got a large commercial client and you want to manage multiple jobs, but it's all under one client?
Yeah, we have a concept called client sites. So you can have one kind of head office for a client, and then they can have multiple sites, and then all of the billing goes back to the head office. So stuff like that is doable with ServiceMate. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So I think it's worth touching on the various different integrations that ServiceMate has. But before we do that, coming back to the customer who's looking to sign up with ServiceMate, we've covered quite a few features. So if a customer comes along and they go, okay, I think I'm going to benefit from looking around, seeing if there's something better than an Excel spreadsheet. They go, oh yeah, there's ServiceMate, there's Jobber, there's the Service Autopilot. There's a bunch of different packages around. I just mentioned 3 of them, but there's a lot of them around.
Yep.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the name of the package. Oh yeah, there's a 1-800 number or a 1-300 number. Call that. Hey, help me. And what does that look like? Do you say go onto the website and fill out the application and start there? Or do you say, hey, let's line you up with somebody who's going to walk you through the process?
It would probably start by just creating a free trial in the first instance. So we literally don't have a sales team. We put a lot of effort into trying to make ServiceMate speak for itself and then letting other customers advocate for ServiceMate. So, yeah, you can create a free trial. That can be extended if you need more time to have a poke around. And essentially, we have a lot of resources to help you just make sure you're looking in the right place and discovering if ServiceMate's and trying the right things to discover if ServiceMate's the right fit for you, and educate you on all of the fundamentals, the core workflows, how a job moves through ServiceMate from start to finish. We kind of call this thing called the life of a job. So we kind of walked through it before when you were describing the functionality. You know, you create a job card, you can schedule it, you can open it in the app, you can track your time, you know, see the job requirements, the checklist, complete checklist, before and after photos, diary notes, all of those kinds of things, complete PDF forms, select all your items and services, add that to an invoice, even accept payment on site, and then approve that through to your accounting package. You just want to be able to see and compare how a job moves through that workflow with this software and how if that's a good fit for your business. So definitely advocate for trying that out. And from there, there's essentially 2 pathways. You can either engage one of our independent ServiceMate partners for setup and training services, or we have a different pathway called the Learning Roadmap, where it's all on demand and you can learn ServiceMate yourself and get set up yourself. And both work just fine. So,
now I think speaking for myself and also for a friend that I had a chat to about this last week, there's a little bit of anxiety or change resistance when it comes to looking at a package like this. And part of the anxiety is going, all right, if you get a free trial, a lot of software packages that offer you a free trial, it's like 7 days or 24 hours or something like that. And like, yeah, and so I can appreciate your flexibility on saying we can extend the free trial a little bit if you need to.
Yep.
I actually suggested to a friend, I was like, well, why don't you just pay for the starting package rather than doing the free trial and look at it as a 6-month trial? You just go, okay, I'm going to put one of my jobs in there or half a dozen jobs in there, get used to what the workflow is like over a few months rather than a very short period of time. So what's the free trial time frame that you offer? And you said it is flexible.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks is standard. And if you need more time, just get in touch with our team. Or the second option that you just mentioned, you can sign up just for what we call the light plan. It's literally $1 forever at the moment.
$1 forever.
That's $1. Let me clarify that. $1 a month.
$1 a month. Okay, yep.
And that wouldn't be like the plan you would use if you got up and running. You would need to upgrade. But essentially, if you just need a little bit more time to poke around, that would be one alternative.
That sounds really good value.
Maxed out all your trials and that kind of thing. So.
I was thinking it was awesome value if it was $1 forever, but even $1 a month is still really good value to be able to just go, okay, throw a few jobs in there and get used to the workflow so that I can see whether that's going to benefit my business.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of part of our mentality is make ServiceMate extremely easy to try and without that sales pressure or anything like that, and let the product speak for itself and let the customer decide if it's the right fit rather than us trying to force it on you or sell you on it. And it's worked really well. So
yeah, I'm technically minded. People listen to my podcast, they'll think I've done everything, but it's not entirely true. But I have experience working in IT. So I literally, when it came time to make my website, the first time I was like, I'll just write the HTML code rather than going and doing an automated website or paying somebody to build it. And obviously a bit of regret there. But I don't mind and I don't shy away from learning something myself. So I guess looking at that, what I have also realized is that when I try and learn something myself, some of the things that claim to be really easy to learn, I'm too busy mowing lawns to spend the time learning it. Or I'm too busy trying to, work out how I'm going to get new customers or making sure that I spend some time with the family in between cutting grass. So, I guess, I know looking at, I've spoken to half a dozen people that have currently been using ServiceMate, and I've wondered, and I didn't ask them outright, I should have, in terms of the difference between using a ServiceMate partner to set up or setting it up themselves and how quickly they can gain the best use for their business when they do it themselves versus using a ServiceMate partner. And I guess take a business that's solo, working on their own. They go, I want to put on an employee, but this spreadsheet sucks. So if they're going that sort of size, they might be in your mid-tier package.
Yep.
What would it cost them to get set up with a ServiceMate partner? And will that fast track a lot of features, being able to get features up and running?
Yeah. I mean, we don't mandate how much ServiceMate partners charge for, but for like a sole operator or something like that, engaging a ServiceMate partner, I'll throw out something like $1,000 to $2,000 in terms of setup. That would be fairly comprehensive.
Yeah.
And that would include, one-on-one time in person or over Zoom, talking them through it, all the basic account setup, a range of templates and those kinds of things, and taking the time to learn a bit about, their business and how it works and making some recommendations, maybe setting up a few different types of forms that they can use if that's part of their business requirements. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of value there in terms of doing all of the basic account setup so that the business owner doesn't have to do that, but also adding value on top of that in terms of, we should switch these kinds of things on, or we'll create these kinds of forms for you, and educating them on that and giving them that peace of mind that, this is the best setup to get you started. And then we can look at these features or add-ons a bit further down the road to help you get more value out of ServiceMate and give you that peace of mind that, you've got a good grounding and you're using it, really well and properly from day one. So
yeah.
It depends on the kind of person you are. Like, having said that, I'm probably one of the kind of people that would give it a crack and try it myself. I'm a very DIY kind of person, but
I know I would too. But
as a business,
I've talked on my podcast about this many times, and I don't know if you've heard any particular episode where I talked about fixing the axle seals on my four-wheel drive.
I listened to it with Simon last night. Yeah.
The problem that I encountered there was going, okay, I'm great at servicing my lawnmower. I will do my oil change. I will do a lot of work myself. I'll change out a electric PTO shaft on the lawnmower. No problem. It saves me time and it saves me the cost of going to the lawnmower mechanic and doing it. And it probably saves me half the cost of what it would cost if I paid the lawnmower mechanic to do one. But when it comes time to do something that's a little bit complicated and something which I'm pretty proud to say I know I could do myself, but say it's worth $1,000 to $2,000, that's a great example to look at it and go, okay, if I'm going out there and I'm doing $1,000 worth of work, lawn mowing, garden cleanup type work, and I'm just left to my own devices, bang, 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 done. Quick, easy, done a good job, walk away. If the customer says, hey, can I help you? That's that. Instead of a $1,000 job, that's a $2,000 job. If the customer says, hey, I'm going to stand there and give you directions, that's a $3,000 job. Right? So I guess what I'm getting at there is that, again, when it comes back to doing what you're good at, if you go to a ServiceMate partner and you're spending $1,000 to $2,000 with them, you are saving yourself a world of hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Saving time. I wouldn't say a world of hurt.
Well, I'm not saying it's hard to set up ServiceMate. I don't know that. I'm just saying that you're getting a lot of value out of them for $1,000 to $2,000.
I think, especially for a service business where you're looking at that opportunity cost equation, whereas what's the best use of my time right now? Is it spending time learning the system from scratch, or spending time on the tools, staying in my lane and making money so I can pay for that service and get it done properly and have that value add? So definitely agree with that mentality, especially if you're presented with that opportunity cost equation. I get it. Like, I did the same thing. Like, I renovated my kitchen while just after my baby son was born, and it took me 9 months to do it, and it created enormous stress at a very stressful time already. And essentially, I had to learn how to do a whole bunch of carpentry and different jobs from scratch because I thought, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
I chose a terrible time of my life to do it, and I have big regrets. So yeah,
I've done some renovations myself, and I'm really proud of what I've achieved by doing that. But when I bought this house, the house was a dump. And my wife did not want to buy it. And I said, look, if we buy it on the condition that before we even use the kitchen, it gets demolished and rebuilt. And I know what you're saying there. I could not take 9 months to rebuild the kitchen and do it myself. We had a friend who's a kitchen person, and so we're just like, this is your job.
Yeah.
How quickly can you get it done? And I think it took 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was a sucky 2 weeks cooking without a kitchen.
Yeah, no, we cooked out of the laundry.
Yeah.
It was rough. So
yeah. So again, I'm not saying ServiceMate is hard for people to set up. Obviously, you've got well-designed tutorials to walk people through doing that if they want to do it themselves.
Yep.
What I am saying is that if you pay somebody $1,000 to do some work in your garden, you're expecting a lot for that $1,000. And if you pay somebody $1,000 or $2,000 to set up a software package like ServiceMate, you're going to get a lot of value out of that compared to if you do it yourself, keeping in mind that most people who start using ServiceMate are the person that's doing the mowing. So they're the technician, the mechanic, the CEO, the admin.
Wearing all the hats.
And if you pay an admin person to set up ServiceMate for you, then, why not give them the job and say, this is your job, set
Yep.
it up. Or you go to a ServiceMate partner and get them to do it.
Yeah.
Do they do it all the time?
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, they won't just do the busy work. They'll add value and make it a much better experience. And if you've got a team, they'll train them up as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of good reasons to engage a ServiceMate partner. So, yeah.
Yep. So I've talked to a few people. I keep coming back to this. Talked to a few people about ServiceMate and what they use it for. And there's a variety of different people using it, from the very basics, so just making a list of the jobs they've done and invoicing them out, through to people who are going, I've got a team of people working for me. One person is a supervisor. They have the ability and access to ServiceMate to look at the quotes, the prices, and the invoicing and everything. So they actually take responsibility of that team, doing quotes, doing invoicing, setting pricing, all those sorts of things.
Yep.
And then the other people on the team are purely logging on and off the jobs.
Yep.
Versus other people who don't use that feature at all. And then you talk to somebody who's well-versed in ServiceMate, and it's like, okay, it allows me to take a business where I'm at a price ceiling for my jobs and improve the profitability of my business by improving the efficiency. So if I understand correctly, and I've pushed you on this a little bit, but ServiceMate allows you to really analyze the analytics of downtime, travel between jobs, how long it takes to do a job, is that improving over time, all these various different things that are a massive advantage. That I talk to other people who try and do this manually, and it's like, oh man, I would pull my hair out. I would tear my hair out and start drinking if I was doing that manually.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think we'll never claim to have the deepest or most comprehensive reporting, but there's definitely bits of functionality or features or snapshot reports which can help you get good insight on those kinds of key metrics. So around your productivity, your efficiency, your gross profit, how you're tracking in terms of your total sales revenue over the last 7 days or 28 days. So we've always kind of leaned towards really high level snapshot digestible metrics over really deep comprehensive analysis. And that's something you'll find when you're checking out ServiceMate. So yeah, there's definitely different bits and pieces that can help you keep track and make sure you're heading in the right direction. And then I suppose at the end of the day, you would also defer to your accounting software and your accountant as to, the ultimate source of truth of your knowing your numbers out of your accounting software as well. So,
and I think this is where it's my job as a podcaster to say there are other packages out there that people can look at to compare what a package offers, whether it's a high level package or a low level package, whether you're getting value for money or whether you're choosing to spend a lot per month so that you've got a lot more features. And I think there are both ends of the spectrum out there. I've looked at ServiceMate as being one of the packages that really caters well to those people in the lawn care industry in terms of price versus functionality.
Yep. Yeah, no, we definitely try to keep ServiceMate priced at a point that offers a lot of value and in a way that is value based. So we don't charge you per user or per staff login that you need. We try to link the way that ServiceMate's priced back to the value that we provide your business.
Yeah.
And the way we kind of do that is we link it back to jobs and job cards and different features. So the more you pay, it's kind of linked back to your success. So it's in our mutual interest to help you create more jobs and get more jobs done, because if we're going to push you to a higher plan, it's because you're successful and you're kicking goals and you need more. So rather than trying to squeeze you just when you need to put on an admin staff member and accommodate their salary in the business, and then all of a sudden you need to pay more for your software as well. So
so help me with the price plans there, because I've spoken to people who are using price plans, and you can correct me with this.
Yep.
I think the common one I've seen people using is about $80 a month.
So we've got I think five pricing plans: light, starter, growing, premium, and premium plus. So it starts at $9 a month, currently $1 a month, and goes up to $29. This is all in Australia. $29, then $79. That's our growing plan, which is probably what you're referring to. And then it goes to $149, $349. So
in this industry, I've seen the $79 plan is pretty popular.
Yep.
And did you say $149?
Yep.
Yeah, that one is also quite popular, and I'm sure there was at least one person that was at the $399.
$349. You get
$349.
Yeah, you'll be churning through a lot of jobs. You get 1,500 jobs a month in that plan, or you get access to a lot of powerful features as well. So
yeah.
The $79 plan, I think you get 150 job credits with that one a month, and you get a lot of really popular and powerful features in that one. So yeah, it's definitely one of our most popular plans.
So I would, for people listening to this that are going, okay, where do I fit in there? I would say if you're starting out, then you can probably go down to these. I think $29 per month is probably ballpark.
Yep.
That's going to be ballpark covering somebody who's starting out in business. You could start with the current $1 per month option just to trial it, but the $29 per month option is going to cover a lot of what a starting business needs.
Yep.
The $79 a month is going to cover what a lot of solo guys need in terms of the number of jobs they do a month.
Yep.
Once you start getting a few employees, then you quickly scale up to the $149 or the $349.
Yep. Yeah, sounds about right.
So yeah, that gives people a bit of a snapshot as to where they might land and whether they see that as good value.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a new business, so if you've started or registered your business in the last year or two, I think it's 2 years, then you can get 50% off your first 12 months. So that can really help if you're a new business.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So there's quite a few incentives there at the moment for people.
Yeah, definitely suss out whatever's happening on our pricing page and have a look at the other kind of deals that are available to help you get started.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're coming up to almost an hour now, and we only talked about mountain bikes for a couple of minutes. We did well. So I think we've covered a lot of the features that ServiceMate offers. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight in terms of, particularly for our industry, anything particular that stands out for you that you'd like to go?
Yeah, there were a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Just listening to a fair few of your episodes and the way, a lot of your listeners and your audience are pushing towards not being, the cowboy charging $50 a lawn kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you want to run your business properly and you want to attract the right kind of customers that are happy to pay. So I would say there's a lot that solutions like ServiceMate can do on the customer service side of that to help you differentiate and validate to the client that you are worth paying for at that higher rate. Because you are offering that premium service. But, when at the point of quoting, then, old mate cowboy saying he'll do it for $50 and giving that as a verbal and saying, I'll do a neat and tidy job and I'm reliable, I'll be there on time. Like, what can you do to provide a different experience at that first point of contact with the client to position yourself as that premium service and worth paying that higher rate for? So I think we've talked about a lot of those things in terms of those first impressions and those booking confirmations and reminders and positioning yourself there. I think there's other bits and pieces as well.
I'll jump in there with those first impressions with a customer, and I agree ServiceMate is a great solution to put a lot of the benefits in front of the customer there. But first impressions with a customer, you're likely to hear at the quote, they're not a customer yet. Oh, the last guy, he did it for $25.
Yep.
And you're charging $75.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, this comes from my own experience, but also from talking to franchises as well. If you turn up, you call back within the first few minutes of receiving a message. You turn up when you say you're going to turn up for the quote and then to do the first job. You're 10 steps in front of the cowboy. You're 10 steps in front of the last guy. So all you got to do is convince the potential customer that you're going to be consistent. And ServiceMate's a great way to go, okay, you know what, this is a scheduled process that I use. This makes sure that the consistency is there.
Yep.
And then the other side of that is making sure that you're professional in the way that you do your work as well as the way that you present. And I think ServiceMate just really helps to give that professional edge.
Yeah, for sure. So across those initial touch points, you can get all of that professional communication. You can get that professional quote. They can accept it online. All of those little touch points can help differentiate you from the cowboy that sent you a text message saying it'll be $25 or whatever. Like, you want to give them a real apples and oranges kind of experience, and give them that assurance that you're the real deal, and give them a good reason to choose you. And then I suppose on an ongoing basis, there are different bits and pieces that can help you sustain that level of communication and customer service in terms of how you work with the client before, during, and after every job. And I think there's those different clients in terms of, will they be there, or is it a holiday home or a vacant block? How do you communicate with them and let them know that the job's done? How do you give them those before and after photos? Do you make it really easy for them to pay? So can they just flick a switch and automatically set invoices to pay, or do they have to manually go in and transfer your money, every week or fortnight and spend that 30 seconds doing that chore? All of those kinds of things can help differentiate your business and attract those good clients that are afraid to lose you, and help validate that premium service and cost in their minds as well. So,
and reflecting on when I started up, that was what I experienced. Is the first thing is wear something that looks like it's neat and tidy. Turn up, make sure I do good quality work. And it was only after customers realised that I would turn up routinely and do the work and not disappear that I would gain the benefit of proving that I was going to be reliable. Whereas I think, going to a software package like ServiceMate, you get the opportunity to put reliability in front of them. And I often saw it in the early days, invoicing straight away, calling back straight away as being too pushy. But looking at the way a customer looks at those things, they're like, oh, this person's reliable, this person's honest, this person is consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, coming from a personal angle, like I've got a garden bag service and he does a great job. Whenever the garden bag's full, he comes around and, we're like ships in the night, and he does a great job. But he'll send me the invoice and I still have to manually pay that. And I have to, this is a first world problem, but still, I have to spend that time. I have to look out for his email. I have to spend that time opening up NetBank, manually transferring that money every single, 3 weeks or whatever it is. And that chips away at my satisfaction and my opinion of that transaction.
Yeah.
And something that took that away would just bring that right back up to the top.
Automate the process.
Yeah. And, so I think anything that can help that customer experience is gold.
And I was pretty reluctant about buying a Square credit card reader. When I eventually got one, it was a case of going, okay, this is not making me look more professional. It's making me look harder on the customers that I didn't really want in the first place. And then I found out after I got it that I actually just got rid of those customers because it proved very quickly that they didn't want to pay whichever way I gave it to them. And then I found out that some of my best customers was like, oh, you've got a credit card reader? I want to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes their life easier.
Yeah, they want to pay. They're happy to pay. They want to get it out of their hair. And they would appreciate you running a business, how important that is for your cash flow. But if it's not easy to pay and it's easy for them to kick it down the road, then that directly affects your cash flow as a business and all of that admin time, keeping track of all your payments, who's paid, who hasn't paid, that kind of thing. Or like, if I've got a mate with a cleaner and it's still a cash job. So, the night before it'll get to 10 o'clock, they realize that they don't have any cash, and every week or fortnight they're doing a run to the survey at 10 o'clock to get cash out, and they might do an awesome job, but it's still grading away at that experience with that business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When you take it a step further than doing cash jobs and you're going, okay, I'm trying to record who's paid me and where it's up to, and I'm doing it manually, then you discover what double entry accounting is all about.
Yeah.
And it's a breath of fresh air when you switch over to an automated system where you don't have to manually do that double entry to make sure somebody's paid you.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for making payment easy for clients and the cashless economy, almost cashless economy that we're heading towards. So,
well, there's always going to be people who insist on using cash, but for most transactions, it just makes life easier when you don't need to have cash and when you can do it automatically.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover about ServiceMate, about your mountain biking.
Yeah.
So, look, I appreciate having you on, Michael. It's been great.
Nice.
And, it'd be awesome to get feedback from the listeners in terms of people listening to this and what they think, whether they can see value in signing up to use ServiceMate instead of using their old spreadsheet and guessing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd also say that, like, some of the things that have resonated in the last few weeks listening to some episodes are things like some of the comments around setting up your business from day one with a growth mentality. Even if you don't intend to grow the business, setting it up with a systems focus can be really beneficial. And having a job management solution is an asset to your business. So if ever you want to sell it, then having a system in place with all of your clients, all of your job history, all of these systems and processes and templates and service built in as this kind of turnkey thing that you can hand over, that has value in terms of the assets of your business.
Yep.
So
I've got a friend who is in the industry, and he sent me a message and he said, do this survey and see what the saleability of your business is. I was like, I don't want to sell my business.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started filling out the survey, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. There's things I could change in my business that make it look a whole lot more attractive to somebody else. I don't have to do that if I'm not planning on selling my business, but just simply the fact that I've thought about it, it's like, it actually wouldn't take too much effort to do that. It wouldn't cost me anything to do it. And then if I do decide to sell my business down the track, it looks more attractive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, can really appreciate that. And there's probably a few people that listening to this that will have filled out that same survey to see what their saleability of their business looks like.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, Michael, I like your dungeon. I like ServiceMate. And it's been great talking to you.
Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate you having me on. And I can definitely tell how much your listeners appreciate the work that you do. So congrats on that. So,
thanks. Awesome. Catch you later.
All right. See you, mate.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.